Hello again, and welcome back to another sound design tutorial. We haven't done one of these in a while. Today we're going to be looking at redesigning the sound of the licker from the new remake of Resident Evil 2, which came out about a week ago. And we're going to be redesigning the kind of cries and the creepy crawly sounds that it makes, doing our own version of it. And I'm going to show you some of the things that I've recorded and the kind of the ways I've processed them to get basically a creature sound. For those of you who are interested in my Fmod and Unity course I'm working on, I'm going to have an update for you guys at the end of this video, so stick around till then. But for those of you who don't really care, let's crack on with this video. Okay, so for those of you who don't know what the lickers in Resident Evil 2 sound like, or just can't remember, I took a little video from the game whilst I was playing it, and yeah, let me quickly play you what they sound like. Cool. So not bad. The animation and the sounds are a little out of sync, but other than that, it's a really cool, creepy creature sound they come up with. So after a load of processing, recording, and messing around, this is what I came up with. Okay, so not too different, but there's some really cool ideas that I ended up messing around with to get that sound, and I wanted to share them with you guys. So yeah, let's jump into Reaper, the DAW I'm using, and take a look at what I did. Okay, so this is the project I was working with. As you can kind of see, I've basically divided most of my sounds up into two buses. One which contains all of the signal for all the sort of screeches and the sound coming out of its mouth, basically. And then another for all the sounds that its body's making as it's kind of walking and creeping along towards the player. The first track in the cry bus is called Vinny. The reason why is because I actually recorded my little friend's Bulldog. That's where I got the kind of low-end growls from, which was a nightmare. To actually get him to make these noises and growl was really awkward, but some of the results were really interesting, so I'm glad I did it. Anyway, if I quickly take all the processing off, let's have a quick listen to how it sounds on its own. Oh, actually, hold on. Let's quickly turn off the bus. That's basically, there's another bus I'm sending everything to, just to give everything some room reverb. But without that, let's have a listen to what it sounds like. There you go. So as you can hear, it's just basically him growling. I think what I had to do is actually get what's called a thunder drum, which I'll show you in a second because I use that a little bit more as well, which is something he really hates. It's basically like a tube with a spring on it, and he absolutely hates the noise of it. And he starts barking and growling at it. So whilst I'm shaking this thing around, I had to stop it, quickly get the microphone out whilst he growled and barks. And yeah, that was kind of the base for the creature sound. If we quickly turn on the processing and take a look at what I've did, first thing I did was EQ it. Whilst I wanted this to be kind of the bottom end, it was a bit too low. If I, had most of the low end frequencies in, it was a bit too much, especially for this creature. It's not like a massive dragon or monster. It's only small. It's about the size of like an average adult human. So having all those low end sounded a bit off. So I took most of it out. And I just pitched it down so it sounded a little bit more heavy. And I actually kept some of the original dry signal in and mixed it in with the wet, just so it didn't sound too artificial with the pitching. Then I added some reverb, which, to be honest, pitch and reverb, in terms of the processing I've done on this, and a lot of it's not very inspired. It's literally just pitch and reverb. It's mostly what I've done. A friend of mine was suggesting to do some parallel distortion, and I wish I kind of tried that now in the end. But without it, I did manage to get something I quite liked. So anyway, added this reverb. The decay time is not very long on it. I also made sure it was mono and not a stereo kind of reverb. Tiny bit of modulation on it, as you can see here. And I was messing around a little bit with some EQ gains just to, get the sound I kind of wanted. But other than that, it's pretty standard. The room size isn't massive. And yeah, that's pretty much it on the reverb. And then compression, it's just a little bit to make sure it didn't, go too high and just control the levels a bit. So with all the processing, Vinny sounds like this. Cool, so really good stuff. And yeah, that's kind of the base of the monster's kind of growl. Okay, so the next thing for the monster's growl was a thunder drum I used, no, this wasn't really an intentional thing. I actually ended up adding it just because, like I said, I was messing around with it just to get Vinny to growl. But it actually gave kind of like a really cool hiss when I processed it a bit. I've actually found a video of what one looks like, and if you give me a second, I'll quickly go grab mine. Okay, so that is what a thunder drum looks like. It's basically a tube with a really long, skinny spring on. And the idea is you shake it, the spring vibrates, and then the sound amplifies through the drum out through the little hole at the top. You can get bigger ones and small ones. I bought a small one. Kind of wish I didn't. Kind of wish I'd spent a bit more money and got a bigger one, just because if you're after something that creates a lot of low end, it's not great. It sounds a bit too hollow. But for using the string, it sounds great. So if I give it a shake, it sounds like that. It's a really cool sound, and as you can hear, you can kind of shake the spring around. You can rattle it on stuff to get some really cool sounds. And yeah, it's a little secret weapon of mine as a sound design tool. So yeah, let's put that down. Oh, like I said, Vinny doesn't like it, so he barks, and I've got him in the background. But anyway, let's have a look at what that sounded like on its own. So that was mostly me I think I was just sort of dragging it along my wooden desk, and that was how I got those sounds. The spring, that is, not the drum itself, just, shaking it along. Let's have a look at the processing I added to it. Again, I kind of wish I did more processing, but I got the result I wanted. That's the main thing, isn't it? EQ, just took the ends that I didn't want out. I wanted a mostly middle thing, because we got the kind of low end from Vinny. Pitch, upped it a bit, and again included some dry signal. Then the reverb, again, just messed around with it, kind of found something I wanted. Oh, that's interesting. I took most of the dry signal out. So we're just getting a wet sound from this. There's no dry signal it's all reverberated rather. And as you can see, I've kind of boosted the highs a bit and the mids and the highs on the EQ around 5,000, 15,000 hertz. I guess to get kind of a hissy sound out of it, to, sound like it's hissing at you. And then finally, a little bit of compression, just like I did with Vinny. Not a massive threshold, not a lot of ratio. Again, just to level it off and control the levels. So with all of that processing, it sounds like this. But yeah, it sounds a bit shrieky, doesn't it? And you got a bit of a hiss there. So if I combine that with Vinny, we're already getting to hear the kind of creature's cry take shape. As I don't know if let's try and zoom in a bit, because that's probably not very clear. But as you can see, for each individual region, I kind of just balanced out the levels one by one. I guess I kind of wanted to make some elements of the cry come out more than others in certain areas. So, for example, in the video, if I quickly get the video back up for you, there's moments like this where he's just kind of skulking around quite slowly. He's not really in your face. But then there's moments like this. Oh, not like that. Let me find it. There it is. Where he stands up and he's a bit more kind of shouty, I guess. You can see his mouth moving. And there again, he jumps up and shouts at your face. So depending on what the creature was doing in the video, kind of dictated how much levels I wanted in each sound. Some areas I wanted more of the growl and the low end. Some I wanted more of the shrieky high end. Right, next thing I used was a scream, which I think I just found on like a free website that gives you samples. I was trying to do some screaming myself, but it sounded a bit rubbish. I think the scream I ended up with was like a female scream of a lady just going, ah! Chopped it up into little bits and moved the regions around. I did try stretching it, but that just kind of made it sound too artificial. It didn't sound natural. So in the end, I just took luckily it was a decent long sample, so it didn't sound too repetitive. But I chopped up some bits, put them in places to match the video, and yeah, that sounds like this. Bit of a warning: this is very high pitched, so cover your ears, I guess. Here we go. Okay, cool. So again, that's another natural element which just made it sound a bit more believable. Yeah, and this was kind of like the missing ingredient. I felt for the longest time I had three main sounds for the screech or the cry, and I wasn't happy with it. But when I added this in, it kind of brought it all to life, which was quite nice. Let's have a quick look at the processing again. So, same old, same old. Oh, that's interesting. So I've taken a lot of frequencies out around 3K. I guess that was just kind of to shape it. I think at this point, all the sounds are starting to get very high end, so it's really important to kind of control that, especially combined with the thunder drum. So next is pitch. Took it down a bit. This time it's all wet signal. Reverb again, a bit dry in this time, not a lot of modulation and just some tweaking of the gain and the EQ. As you can see, I've actually taken a lot of high end out again to control it. As you probably heard it on its own, it's really shrieky and a bit horrible to listen to. But then finally, some compression and I guess quite a bit of ratio just because it's very loud. You know, you don't want it piercing anyone's ears. Yeah, cool. So that was everything. If I slap the processing on, it sounds like this. There we go, cool. Okay, so the final element is just my voice, basically, and me just making weird noises into the mic. Let's have a listen to what that sounds. Yeah, not very pleasant noises, but there you go, it worked for this. Let's slap on the processing and have a look at what I did. So first I took some noise out because recording in my room, it's very noisy. I mean, I live I live right next to Heathrow Airport, so you get a lot of planes flying over, and that's just a nightmare to deal with. So I definitely had to take some noise out. EQ took most of the low end out, made it kind of middly. Pitch again took a lot of the low, or sorry, dropped it in pitch to make it sound a bit heavier. And then reverb, yeah, reverb. As you can see, I went really, all out on this with the reverb. Reason why is, I guess, because with this is like the hissiest part. This really sounds like this creature's almost like a snake, and it's angry at you, and it's showing you it's angry by hissing. Obviously, hissing kind of, because it's a high end kind of sound, you'd expect it to kind of bounce around a bit in a room. It's not like a low end kind of growl where it wouldn't, because it's low end, it wouldn't move around a room or get reverberated too much. Nice bit of reverb kind of added to this quite a bit. Let's have a listen to how that sounds then with the processing. Let's turn it up a bit. And there we go. So like I said earlier, all of these sounds for the monster screeching and roaring, I sent to a bus, and the bus I did a little bit more processing on. Let's quickly play you all of them together with their individual processing, but without the bus processing, so you can have a listen to them. Cool stuff. Right, now let's turn the processing for the bus back on. This time, oh, look at that, I've used a new plugin. So just EQ'd it a bit where I felt it was needed. Tremolo. Now this is basically what I like to think gives this sound its flavour, I suppose. If any of you watched these sound design tutorials before that I've done, you'll know that I really like tremolo because it just gives everything, it makes things more interesting, giving it a little bit of a wobble. And it certainly does for monster and creature sounds because it makes it kind of sound like there's vocal cords in the sound being, vibrated and rattled, creating the sound. So this really kind of shapes it all together. A little bit more reverb this time. The intention of this reverb was to glue it together, so I kind of didn't go too much with it. And again, just tweaked some things. I gave this a bit more character by adding some modulation into the reverb. And yeah, a little bit more room size than we normally did. But by the way, I don't know if I've said this already, but most of the decay time for all of these reverbs have been quite small because, like I said, this isn't meant to be the sound of the monster roar bouncing around the room. This is just the sound itself it's creating. And reverb just kind of just gives it a little bit of, I can't think of an adjective, but it makes it sound good. Yeah, and then finally some compression again, just to control the levels a bit. All I really tweaked was the threshold and the ratio. So with all the processing, it sounds like this. And there you go. You can really hear now the tremolo and how good that good's not a great adjective, but how good it works with the tremolo. It really makes it sound like the monster's hissing and kind of naturally making these sounds instead of just blasting the sound at you very kind of directly. It's giving it a bit of a wobble. And yeah, that's mostly all the sounds I used to create the roar and the cries. Now let's have a look at the sounds for its body as it's kind of skulking along the ground. Okay, so the first thing I recorded for its body was a wallet, a leather wallet. And the idea was to kind of make it sound like that the skin, or not the skin, the flesh of the liquor was kind of rubbing against itself. If I quickly get that video back up for you so you can have a look at what the liquor actually looks like. Hopefully that's bright enough. As you can see, there's no skin on it. It's just guts and flesh and blood and gore. So to me, it made sense for that to kind of sonically be communicated to the player, or at least I thought that'd be a cool idea. And I didn't want it to. Originally, I was going to get like some pasta or some tomatoes and kind of squish everything together because you'd expect flesh to be kind of squishy. But the fact the flesh is on the outside of its body, presumably has all dried up. I felt leather would be more appropriate to make it feel like it's almost an uncomfortable sound that the flesh that is exposed but shouldn't be is rubbing against itself, and that kind of hopefully adds to the horror and creepiness of both the creature and the sound. So let's have a listen to the wallet, just me rubbing a leather wallet around in the microphone on its own. There you go. So obviously you can hear that I need to take a lot of noise out of it, but that's a general idea for the wallet. Then if I quickly turn it on and check the processing out, all I did really for this was just take all that noise out you could hear, which wasn't helping, and then EQ'd it. Took most of the low end out because the creature's fairly far away from us. We don't expect to hear any low end. We obviously expect to hear the highs. So that's what I did, just boosted the highs. So with the processing, it sounds like this. There we go. Next up is balloons. I did the same thing with balloons. I basically just took them in my hand and rubbed them together, and that was just to layer on the flesh a bit more, give it more texture. So there's not much to say about that. Let's quickly play them without any processing. So again, just a leathery, rubbery feel we're going for. Let's then turn the processing on and take a look. Again, took the noise out. This is just me in my room, where it's very noisy, just doing this into a mic. And then took the low end out. Quite a lot of low end out by the looks of things. And yeah, this is how it sounds like with its processing. Next up was a keyboard. All I did basically was take a pen and just scrape a pen against the keys on my keyboard. I don't know if you can hear that, but yeah, the keyboard on my computer. This was for the long nails of the monster. Let's have a look at what he looks like again. These long nails that are just creeping against the floor. The original one had the sound of the nails, whenever he put a foot down, you could hear them hit the ground, and I thought that'd be a cool thing to do as well. So the way I did them was literally just with the keys on my keyboard and just messed around with the sound of that because it sounded, well, it fit it quite well. Let's have a listen to what that sounds like on its own. So as you can hear, I kind of chopped that up and put it into positions to match the nails in the video hitting the ground. Let's have a quick look at the processing I did for that. Again, just EQ'd it where I felt was necessary. And yeah, as you can see, I've pitched it down just a tiny bit. I didn't want it to sound too plasticky, rather. And by pitching it down a little bit, that fixed that quite easily. So let's have a listen to how that sounds like now. So the last thing I recorded was just me stamping on a doormat, basically. If we take a look at the video, he's got hands. He's walking, essentially. So obviously we need to hear the sound of his palms hitting the ground. The best way I thought to do that would be to basically copy what he's doing. Just press my feet down on the carpet. And yeah, that came out really cool. Let's have a listen to how that sounds. Cool, and then with their processing, which actually let's take a look at it quickly. Got some noise taken out of that. Again, quite a bit. Oh, Jesus, that was a bit much. That's probably ruining the sound a bit. Then EQ, took a little bit of the low end out, but like I said, I want this to be fuzzy, so I boosted the mids a little bit. Didn't do too much other than, where was it, 200 hertz I stopped at. And then comp, I just did a little bit of comp to balance the levels out a bit. Cool, so let's have a listen to what that sounds like now. Cool, good stuff. So just like the roaring sounds, all the body sounds are also being sent to their own bus. Let's take a quick look. Oh, actually, no, let's play them together to see what they sound like. There we go. And then let's have a listen to the processing, which was, oh, it was only it was only compression. So there you go. Doesn't really change the sound too much, but there you go. So yeah, that's all the body sounds and the creature sounds. Final thing I did, like I said earlier, was actually send everything to a reverb bus. So this blue track is the reverb bus here. What I did is I sent it in parallel. So all the buses that have all the sounds in, they are going to the master channel, but they're also sending a signal to the reverb track as well, which then goes to the master track. So you get the dry sound of both the original buses, and you also get the reverb, so you can balance them together quite nicely. So if I play this track on its own, there you go. You can only hear the reverb, which again is quite nice for mixing purposes to have a track dedicated to the reverb of the room. Let's quickly take a look at the reverb I added. First thing I did, as you can see, was EQ'd quite a bit at the low end. Reason why is because, like I said earlier, you don't really expect the low end sounds to kind of bounce around the room. You expect the high end sounds to do that more. So, for example, my dog Vinny's growl, that's one thing you wouldn't really want to hear too much. The footsteps as well, they quite low endy again, so again, not really interested in having them reverberated. But things like the high shrieks, particularly the fingernails, they sounded really good when I boosted the reverb up on them. So those were the things I wanted to bring out in the room. Here is the reverb I've gone for. So taking all the dry signal out, because like we said, the dry signal is being sent to the master track on its own. Made sure the width is stereo this time and just balanced out the EQ to make it feel like the room I wanted. Increased the size a bit and the decay time, because this time I want the reverb to kind of last. And yeah, just messed around with the EQ processing, as you can see. Interesting. I don't know why. I don't know why I've knocked all these down altogether. That seemed a bit odd, but hey, that's what I've gone for. Yeah, so that's how that sounds like. One more thing to note is that if I go back to the body bus and click on its routing, when I routed this to the reverb track, as you can see, I didn't just send the signal in at 0 dB, I boosted it quite a bit, as opposed to the Monster Raw bus, which, oh, I did boost that a little bit, but not as much. Let's bring that down a bit. So I boosted that by 3 decibels, and then the body one, I boosted that by 10 decibels. Reason why is because, well, like I said earlier, the fingernails sounded really cool when they were reverberated. You know, really creepy as the creature skulks along towards you. So I wanted to bring them out more. Also, the monster cry is just naturally kind of louder the way I've kind of balanced all the tracks. So I didn't want that to get too reverberated. And just from a balancing standpoint, it kind of made more sense to me to do that. So yeah, so let's unsolo the reverb track and have a listen one more time to how that all sounds. But yeah, there we go. Listening to that back now, I actually think I might turn the body track down a bit, or at least it send to the reverb track down a bit, just because I could hear the leather or the leathery balloony sounds of the skin was reverberating a little bit too much maybe for me. But hey, too late to mix it now, I suppose. But yeah, that is basically everything I wanted to sum up with on this little kind of sound design video. So one last time, let's have a listen to it with the video. Cool, there we go. Yeah, that's everything to it, really. Sorry, by the way, for anyone who's been waiting for a video on this channel for a while. This took me annoyingly long. Not only was I struggling just getting a sound I liked, Reaper crashed on me in the middle of a mix. I was gutted. I couldn't believe I had to redo it all. That's probably why a lot of this came out very repetitive, because I was just scrambling, trying to fix everything and get it to a sound I liked again. So really sorry, it's been nearly a month now, my God, since we've uploaded another video, but I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, for any of you who have been playing Resident Evil 2, how good is that game? I've been absolutely loving it, and I've never played a survival horror game before in my life, and I'm so glad I've started with this, because I'm absolutely loving it. And for those of you who are interested in the F-Mod and Unity course, quick little update for you. I did release the beta version to it about a week ago now. Unfortunately, the website kind of went a bit funny. For some reason, I was having technical difficulties which I've now fixed, and therefore I had to close the beta earlier. But it's all fixed now, and I think I'm going to go move along to the final release. I did kind of do a discounted price for the beta, which I'll probably do as an early bird deal for any of you who are interested scooping that up. So yeah, keep an eye out for that, and I'll keep you posted on these videos when that'll be. I'm basically just finishing up creating some of the course material now. And yeah, under this video, I'll have not only a link to the website where you can check out all the information on the course, the website you can see now, but I'll also have a link to a newsletter where I'm going to be giving you a lot more details on the course as it comes available. I'm also going to be sharing some cool sound design ideas. I was thinking of doing like a little mini Fmod and Unity lesson thing through the newsletter where I just give you a quick tip or trick to using Fmod and Unity together. So yeah, if you're interested in that, you also get a free video from the course by signing up to that, so go check that out. And yeah, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, but you are interested in this course, the idea of it is basically just a big course that gives you everything you need to know about implementing audio with Fmod into Unity. So it's mainly looking at the C# and Fmod API side of things. So if you're a sound designer or audio designer or composer for that matter, who just wants a bit of understanding of how audio gets into games and kind of wants to use that information when they work on their next project, working with programmers is really helpful to help communicate with them, then this course will be for you. So yeah, check it out if you're interested, and like I said, I'll keep you posted as I get more information on it. But yeah, that's been everything from this video. Thanks guys so much for watching. Let me know if you want to see any more sound design videos, or if you have an idea for a sound design video you'd like me to tackle. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.